Hello there. Welcome back, everybody, to the Ecopoint Podcast. It has been quite a long time. We've just finished off with the grand finals, and oh boy, have we had a lot going on right now. But before that, we're going to go through probably quite a bit of the players moving on. But I've actually just checked out the Overwatch on Nintendo Switch. Anyone who's played that?
No,
It's
I've
this
never
game called
touched
Overwatch.
it.
I've never played it before.
Nope. Can't
Yeah,
say.
I
I
think I've
mean the
touched
Halloween
a
event's
Nintendo
going
Switch
live.
like one
I'm just
time in
wondering
my
if
life.
I mean,
Overwatch
Diamond is top 500 from what I've heard.
Yeah, I can't imagine anyone playing on controls or having a tournament on console, but for the ones that want it, I can see why. They're missing out on PC experience, and where a lot of these Overwatch players are playing on.
I'm gonna
How
be.
is Triton?
I mean, it sounds like it's my time to finally be a top tier, top 500 player, you know what I mean?
I'm too busy
Sorry.
trying to go for the top DPS in Houston Outlaws, by the way. I just kind of signed up.
Oh,
I wonder if they'll
you're a
actually
four,
check any of my records.
you're a
I don't
4.6
think they check
DPS
stats
player?
or anything. Like they don't
They
try
did
out.
one.
You're just let on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
They
there's
just
all
they
sorts of
they gotta get a
requirements.
feel. They basically just get a feel for how you play.
That's actually
They check
Yeah.
you and they look at it.
that's actually interesting because I saw the Twitter post for their open tryouts that they're holding, and they actually require that you have a peak of 4.6K in the past 3 seasons, at least once in the past 3 seasons. And I'm
At
wondering
least
how
once
many.
in the past 3 seasons of 21, 22,
Yeah.
going on to.
So
And I'm wondering
essentially,
how
if
many
you
out players
peak,
would actually have that peak.
Correct. If you peak,
so
you could be eligible just by putting your
so
details
4.6 would
together.
almost be like top 20, top 10.
That's like top
I don't.
10, honestly. Like the support leaderboard right now, I want to say like number 6 is OG and he has 4.60 free.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So essentially, you
Uh,
just have to peak there once, and then damn, you're an L.
Yeah, pretty
It's like
much.
that.
true.
I mean, they still have to like you enough to let you on the team, but
Yeah,
yeah.
obviously.
They're gonna
I mean,
it'd be funny if they scouted someone from ladder.
where do you think Ons and Jonak came from?
Exactly. It doesn't not work.
Yeah.
You just got to be really heckin' good, like really good.
Okay. But that's enough about Nintendo Switch and Houston Outlaws tryouts. So tonight we're talking about the free agents. It's officially the off season. It's time for the dreaded
Oh boy.
roster apocalypse, and there are a lot
Oh
of
my
free
god.
agents. So we're gonna pull up a list of these free agents, and we're just gonna have like a nice fireside chat. You know, we're all gonna get cozy,
Yeah.
huddle around the
Get
campfire.
get your hot cocoa, get your marshmallows,
Yeah,
be
exactly.
comfy.
Get your coffee, get your tea, get whatever drink you want, really.
Get water. Water's good
Get
for
water.
you.
And
Just
we're gonna
ice
talk
cold
about all
juice.
these free agents, and we're gonna just
Oh,
discuss like where could they go? Do these players belong in the league? Should they find a new team?
should they retire
Should they
and go to
retire and
Valorant?
go
It's
play
very
League
possible some of them
and
will
get an
and have
LCS
already gone.
salary of 400K? Let's find out
Next time.
next time.
Next
And
time,
that's where we
yeah,
end the
dude.
podcast
Next
here.
time.
Yeah, just while you're loading that up, I do want to appreciate Toucan and Amelia having gone through just a couple of those power rankings. We might have lost one of them the live streams, but that's okay. I'm sure that those of you who followed have also seen the Ecopoint 5 episodes up on Twitch. This has been pretty
Yeah,
amazing, and we've gotten some nice little guests from the community around. It's nice to get that third
maybe
opinion while Triton and I were.
maybe one of you guys could be guests. I'm always asking. I'm always asking.
If you would
I'm
like
Can
always
I be
looking
a
for
guest
people.
or no?
Nah,
No,
we
you
can't be
don't.
guests with
No,
this stuff.
you can't. You're too old. We want young
Too
kids.
if you
Too
would like
You're
to.
only 19, and I'm saying you're
Double
old.
down on that. Oh my god. Well, over here it's sunny down here in Auckland. We've just finished with elections and stuff, so I like to see things going forward in the Overwatch League. I've got some hype for some of these players going to free agency, and
Oh
while there's no
yeah,
voting involved, it's
we
just
have many
what
to
the
talk
league unfolds.
about. We have many players to talk about.
So
In
many.
so
We
little
are only at
time.
the tip of the iceberg. It's been
Yeah,
about
who
2
knows
weeks.
what can happen? And like maybe maybe when we're done, like I don't know,
Mm,
Titans sign Summonsue again.
mhm.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Out the fucking
Well, I would
Summonsue.
love to see Thurman
I
Sue
would love
back
to see
on.
so and so.
No, hear me
Yeah.
out. Titans explodes their roster again for no
Oh
reason.
man. Oh yeah,
Have we only just
definitely.
seen the start of that? It could be that they do it slowly,
Imagine if
and then they drop
London
the rest.
blows up again. Imagine. Oh
Imagine.
wait, it already fucking happened.
Yeah, no, don't tell me something that I already know.
Guys,
For the rest of them, it's a secret.
All right, let's just talk about players.
think
Let's see
Vancouver
who's.
should
Let's
go
go look at
in.
the free agents. We'll just talk.
Okay.
Okay, campfire.
I think the
I'm so
most
ready.
Because I
interesting-
think there's gonna be a lot of players that we won't really need to give a discussion to, but I see a lot of players that could go to many different teams. And who knows? Maybe we bring up contenders players
Mhm.
and see where they could go. What team could use them?
Okay.
Who knows?
So I guess let's just name names, spin the wheel. You know, okay, Obi.
I'm gonna.
Obi,
How about we?
what free agent
okay,
stands out to
fine.
you the most?
Fine. Let's see how. it
Could
is.
you repeat that again?
Obi, what free agent stands out to you the most? Like, who's the first name that comes to mind?
The first one that comes to mind, probably the first one that really stood out from the Outlaws, unfortunately, which was Linkser.
Linkser.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There's no way that anyone could have expected him to have dropped off as free agent. But you have to understand contracts expire. He's been on the team for 3 years now, so his contract, if it got renewed for another year, this probably would have been an option to go for a whole year. But seeing the results, it could just be the Outlaws can't afford to keep him on. Or I don't think they see much of a future with him if they are looking for younger talent.
Yeah, I agree. I
Pretty
love
good for the
Linkser.
team.
I think
Yeah.
he could. I think he could go to London as like a backup or a vet. If they decide to go like full EU.
He could even be a starter on London if they pick up EU talent to supplement
I'm-
their
I
British
think they
Hurricane
would-
core.
Bringing in other talent, which kind of ties into another free agent that came to my mind, Shockwave. I think Shockwave could go to London.
Shockwave could go anywhere that's Western, honestly. He could be on Reign, he could be on Gladiators, he could be on Houston. Like,
Yeah, like Shockwave has. I don't know like what to think about Shockwave sometimes because sometimes Shockwave looks really good, but then there's like times when Shockwave looks overly aggressive. It kind of looks like he's lost.
Well, like that's the difference between a contenders player and an owl player is
Yeah.
consistency. Contenders players are really good and they can hit shots, but can they do it consistently? I think that's kind of the break point for me.
Can they make those decisions in a very short
They
amount of
need
time
to-
where you're literally
Yeah.
looking like you're sitting ducks, whereas you're planning how you're going to approach an attack or a defense?
You always got to think. It's like a game of chess when you're playing in Overwatch. So you always got to think 2 steps ahead of your opponent and predict what they're gonna do. You also need to think about, okay, I'm in this position. What am I gonna do while I'm here? I think Shockwave probably just needs to work on his consistency and not look like a feeder sometimes. But I think Shockwave's gonna get signed to a team. If he doesn't, that's blasphemy.
oh yeah,
That's what it
Shockwave
is.
absolutely gets signed. Jack,
Yeah, at the moment, Shockwave, at this time of recording, he's still not yet released. Still on the team. Could they still build around him
Yeah.
for Vancouver?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was the first
I think
player-
they just need to make some moves. They just need to add certain pieces here and there.
Yeah.
He's just leading into so many like when we talk about one team, like, oh yeah, that Vancouver has also released KSA, Karkar, and KSA, Karkar, and who else did
They
KSA,
released
they release? KSA.
Tsuna, I thought.
Oh yeah, Tsuna.
Also,
I don't know how to feel about them releasing KSA. I don't like
Same.
that.
they should.
I think that's kind
he
of
was really
stupid.
good. He was
He
better
was
than
super huge.
he was better than
I mean-
Shredlock or Rolf at the, like. You can't compare an off tank to like those. It's apples and oranges, but like he was stronger at his role than they were at their role, in my opinion.
Agreed.
You know, I think it's comms though. He's the only Saudi Arabian player in the league. Like, if he doesn't
He's
have
also
really
pinged.
strong English, it's gonna be hard to put him on a team. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And then he
Yeah, I
also
find that
brought
hard to
up,
believe.
he
his
also was
English would not be
saying,
strong.
I think I've heard he has really good English. I just think
Yeah.
what hurt him a lot was his ping. I don't know.
Mm.
I always say, like, I don't know if we can use ping as an argument anymore. But I did see times where he kind of, I don't know, where the ping kind of looked like it affected him. 'Cause he always looked like he was lagging behind occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
I think KSA was really good. I think he was the best player on the team by far, in my opinion. You can make an
Yeah,
argument
I'd
for
keep watch on
Shockwave,
him.
but
As long as he's
I'll
actively
keep an eye
applying,
out.
keep an eye out for this guy. I think
Keep an eye
KSA's
out. If
got
your
every
team has a
reputation.
bad off tank, look out for KSA.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, Amelia, who's like the free agent that pops out for you?
I mean, a lot of free agents pop out to me, and I think something important to clarify about free agents is that just because a player has entered free agency, that doesn't mean that they are uh, not going to be re-signed to their team. It just means that they're kind of testing the market, and a lot of times, a lot of teams will allow a player to enter free agency so that way they can find out the value of the player. Like, is his salary not enough? Is his salary too much? That's the kind of like mentality a lot of teams have going into that. And with that
Yeah,
said, as much as I would love to talk about a Rain player, I think the most outstanding free agent who isn't quite a free agent yet, but will be entering free agency soon, is Moth.
mm.
And
Moth.
you'll notice a trend is that a lot of main supports are free agents, like Chara and Chris, like a lot of people, a lot of main supports are free agents.
Paintbrush, Big
Paintbrush,
Goose.
Big Goose retired.
Yep, he gone.
But
He
Moth is
gone.
so interesting because, well, him being a free agent does mean he could potentially go to another team. It is kind of that classic case of, well, NRG has a lot of money and they probably will try to keep Moth. But it's definitely interesting to see players use this opportunity to like test their value in a sense.
It's what a lot of players in other sports like to do. They like to see what they can be offered by other teams, and then they'll look at the team that wants to keep them and say, all right, if you can match their money or, slightly overpay, I'll stay on the team. It's a smart business thing. Like Moth is thinking like 5 steps ahead. He's like, all right, let's see how much the Rain offer me. If the Rain offer me
Or
what
the
I'm looking
Gladiators,
for, yeah, like if any team that has money will give me the money that I want, all right, Shock, make your move. Are you guys going to
Man,
resign me?
That's always a super interesting question about super teams. Like you see this a lot in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Is because there's a cap in the NBA. I don't think there was in Overwatch League.
Yeah,
And it's like, do you stay on a winning team who's like dominating the league, or do you move to somewhere else where you get paid more, but it's not a guaranteed win?
Mm-hmm.
it's an interesting topic of discussion because I'm an NBA fan. I've seen super teams come and go because there's always the players on teams that are going to be willing, like really players that will sacrifice their own personal salary so they have money to re-sign someone or sign someone. Like it's kind of it's just what the player wants. Really, do you want money or do you want to win? It's whatever that player wants, their own personal desires.
I have talked about this on the podcast before, but in my opinion, main support is a position that like elevates a team. So it would be interesting to see if Moth actually did go to a team like Rain or Gladiators, if he would make those teams. Obviously, they would need more pieces because Gladiators isn't even a complete roster and Atlantis tank line is floundering. But it would be interesting to see if he could make those teams like championship level or elevate the play of those teams at least.
And we saw what Rain did to Massa. Massa was like a top 5 main support last season, in my opinion at least. Well, not like top 3, but like maybe 4, 5, or 6.
I mean, IDK was
I
a
thought
top
Massa was good.
main support in season 2 too. I think Goats.
Did Goat before like this is kind of off topic? Do you guys think Goats inflated some stats of certain players, and then when Goats ended, players looked kind of bad?
Absolutely. And I mean, Goats allowed main supports to be more aggressive and flashy than they would be normally because there's no Widow that's going to headshot you. Or, like, it's easier to avoid, especially as a Lucio player, it's easier to avoid dying to a tank than it is to a DPS player, like, generally speaking.
I agree. Like, a well-placed hack or a flashbang can easily make, like, you just have to stop them from being aggressive. Like, if you can punish a Lucio, they look like they're feeders.
Yeah. I don't think Massa I don't think Massa specifically like depreciated in skill at all, but I do think Goats likely made him look better than he was, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
he
got
probably got inflated.
Good Goats team anyway.
Yeah, like Massa was good. Massa looked good when Goats ended. He didn't look bad. Not as bad as he does now, anyway.
Yeah.
But The thing about GOATs is, I think it really separated the main supports. So that was the comp where, more than any other meta, you could just exist as Lucio and be doing your job. You can just speed boost your team in and heal them and do well, but also you could go aggressive and make plays. So you could see who's willing to make plays and who's willing to just exist.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually noticed this on the Reddit that
Mhm.
there's been this behavior or tendency now to start looking back and think, you know what, Goats really did impact a lot of the Overwatch League's sort of team compositions and how people wanted to stick around or what they wanted going into season 3, knowing full well that if it adapts anymore, well, chances are it's not going to be for Goats because of how much it got locked down end of last year. But I also find it kind of fun to just think of any team, and when we say GOATs, the only team that I can think of is Chengdu, as far as memorable actions or decision making, apart from
Yeah.
the top teams.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of Pacific stuff going on. I'm happy to go through
I
some of them with
think
you
I
guys.
think I think when we look back on season 2, we're gonna think about teams that had players like take the Justice. Imagine if Corey didn't have to play Zarya. Like, think about that. I think
Imagine.
that there's so many teams that like didn't have to be in goat hell and they could play whatever they want, and that was before Roadblock. So, you know, it's just an interesting topic of discussion that we will cover another time, but
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting
There's
to
some more
think
depth that
about.
it deserves.
Yeah. All right, try. Who's a free agent that you look at and you're like, oh yeah, that's a dude that should be signed. Like
So, I
that's
mean,
the first. That's on the chopping block of free agents.
obviously, I'm a Fuel fan and I'm a huge Crimzo stan. But I think the most important reason to bring up Crimzo is the tweet when he announced he was released to free agency. He put up a
What did he
graph
say?
that showed like how well he did over the season,
I
and he
saw
was up
that.
there with Moth and stuff. Yeah, and he was like,
What a
"I'm a
flex.
free agent, just saying." That gave me a good chuckle.
I loved reading the comments because I saw the comment that I may or may not have liked, and it says, "Yeah, you're gonna have the most damage and healing in the league when all you fucking play is Moira and Bat and your tank speed."
I mean, he played on it and stuff, but we're not gonna get into that necessarily. But
Yeah, I do think Crimson is. I think Crimson needs like coaching. He does make some really boneheaded decision making. Like he's not the smartest tool in the shed, sharpest tool in the shed. I don't know why I said smart, but
if you
I
say
think
so,
I
but
honestly
I think as
think
far as interesting free agents go, I think Neptuno is interesting just because I want to know the story. He didn't play much at the end of last season, and I want to know if like it was his choice or what's going on with Neptuno.
it
That's
was
my
more of a
question.
visa
Well, going
thing.
off Guangzhou
I
charge
think it
is
was
always what
probably
I'd love
visa.
to spin that on.
Yeah,
So
as a
what do we
Charge
have at the
fan,
moment?
I bet. I mean, I
I
don't know
don't
how
know
you
what to
feel as
say,
a
man.
Charge fan
I don't
right
know.
now. I mean, who gives a? I mean, no one really cares about YN Crystal. Like, no one cares.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned out of fear for the fact that they dropped the two-way players. This is almost a pattern now from when they had the GZ Academy, which was kind of just spurred out to give
Yeah.
their bench players who weren't of age some more time to play. Nero was in that team, so like the first Western player in Chinese contenders, and you can imagine just kind of the mess that it was actually working with the Chinese and Korean comms in that team. So that was in 2018. That's just some time bought so that they could play in China before they moved into the States. Uh, then we fast forward to today, we no longer have leadership in Chara. And Neptuno, I would love to know what he has to think of just going forward if he's continuing to be support for another team. Nero has tweeted that he will be, at the time of this broadcast, in a month's time, going to be free agent. That was probably just only a matter of time, so no fear in that, but just the new players they want instead, because they don't have Crystal, they won't have Wuya, they currently do not have a main support, and the tank line is looking a little shaky, along with the DPS as well. I don't know even if they still want to keep Eileen, their star Chinese player. They
I
might go
think.
for
I
someone brand
mean, if
new.
I'm in charge, I'm not gonna lose. I wouldn't want to give up Eileen, to be honest.
I wouldn't want to give up Eileen or Krong.
I would rather give up. I would rather give up Chara and Nero for than keep Eileen.
Yeah,
Like,
Definitely Krong.
Nero's replaceable. I think Flex projectile DPS is like him or replaceable. That's why
Yeah,
like
Rio is
shot,
more at risk.
I wouldn't mind.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure, it sucks. You're gonna miss them, but they're replaceable.
Yeah, I mean, this is again 2-year contract for these teams that joined in 2018, so they would obviously have more incentive to look at fresh players and fresh talent in that kind of upper middle bracket of quality talent. Because Krong was never a top for everybody, because he was on O2 Blast. That was a team that was more considered the second place kind of go-getter, but he absolutely smashed on the scene, and I can definitely see them trying to look
It's
more in that angle again.
interesting. Sorry, I just think it's interesting how teams decide who they want to stay and who want to leave because it makes you think like it shows this team's values on what they want. Like take Dallas for example. I had who else had this sneaking suspicion that Dallas was going to cut everyone except Doha? I had the feeling they were going to go full Korean.
Yeah, I could kind of feel that coming on.
The
I
clock's
expected a lot of cuts. I didn't expect an explosion like this. Like, you just signed Paintbrush, Gamsu is Pogs. Like,
Oh my god, didn't look too bad at all either.
Mm-mm.
And that Note had his probably one of his best seasons in a long time.
Yeah, Note really showed improvement this season. I didn't like him going into the season, but he showed a lot more flexibility this season. I was very
I
proud of
can
him.
definitely say I enjoyed the highlights from Note as well. With I think one of the first early noticeable moments where he just clutched a pulse bomb on Numbani. Can't remember who they were playing against, but that was for some people eye opener that you could basically treat
You gotta give
Sigma's.
Note respect.
Yeah, he's gonna just take all those ultimates dry.
I
And
just
we saw more and more of that throughout the season. Thank God.
I think I honestly think I had this feeling once Decay left the way he did, Doha was probably not a great state of I don't know this, but probably Doha wasn't in the greatest state of mind because he promised that he was gonna, be the best buddy to Decay. And when Decay left, he was probably thinking, damn, or really did this to him or whatever they did. We don't know what happened. But I think they're basically just gonna be building around Doha, which I think with new coaching, I've talked about this with Amelia. I'm not the optimist here. I'm probably the harshest critic here. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. If they make the right signings, they know, and they develop their players well. I probably say top 10. 10 or 9 at
I
best.
mean, we're going into a league with a new face. So many signings and releasings. Who knows, really?
Yeah,
It's gonna be another mixed roster with contenders players on the belt.
I don't think it's gonna be.
I think they're gonna go full Korean.
Yeah, they're not. They're done. I mean, take the words Korean and Dallas. Do those two words mix well together? They
They
don't.
do not.
But
If they
I
want a
mean-
chance, they do it at the start, not during the year like we got with Washington or.
yeah, they do it.
They
They
won't
do
want
it
an
when
ugly
they
mess
can.
like
That
that.
way, these players
fan.
can develop with each other, and there's not
Yeah.
clustering comms and all that. It's just Amelia also said it was it doesn't matter if Dallas has a shady, or I wouldn't say shady, but a not so great org. Young players are gonna want money. They're gonna want
Did
money,
you
so
just
they won't.
dunk on Envy.
He did.
Yeah.
I don't think
Dallas
Envy's the
Empire
problem,
Envy?
my guy.
Yeah,
they don't
the
have
organization
the
might look like they made some rough decisions in Overwatch.
made a lot of rough decisions,
They're scuffed.
and they've
is
treated
what we can
certain
say, looking
players
back.
very badly.
That's mostly a
Half of
staff
the players that have
problem.
left, Gamsu, Akim, at Shrill, and Unco, all of them have retired from Overwatch to move to Valorant, except for Gamsu, who's already a veteran in League of Legends. But him going back into that scene after what's been
He's gonna get a lot of
3 years, it's not one that you can just adapt to immediately. He'll know what champions are. He'll know how to mechanically play. But he's got a long road ahead. If you want to follow him, believe me, it'll be quite the journey if you also are familiar with League of Legends.
The journey of
You're
Gamzu
going to wish the best for him. He's going to have to
Yeah.
climb back up.
I don't know what Dallas does. Houston and Dallas, I don't know what they do. That can we just moving forward into what we were talking about? Does anyone have a feeling Dallas or Houston knows what they're doing? Because I don't know what Houston's doing
think
more than I do
Dallas-
Dallas. Dallas has a plan. I don't know what Houston's plan is.
I think the
You shouldn't expect to
Dallas-
know what Houston's doing unless you're inside.
Mhm.
If
I-
anyone's still inside.
I think the Dallas org is doing what Envy does best and throwing money at teams and games and doing well in those games. I mean, they just won the COD League, for God's sake. Like, they know how to build good rosters when they really put their minds to it. But in terms of Houston, I think Houston either goes in like one or two directions. I personally feel Houston's going to take the Valiant direction, where they sign like some cheaper players, but like some kind of underrated like contenders players and maybe some underrated OWL players that kind of get passed over. And then they're going to be like kind of going farther than they ever really have with that, honestly.
I think that I would not be mad if Houston did well. I think they deserve it. Their fans definitely deserve it. That they've been through hell.
Yeah.
They've been through hell. And then especially with the signing of Junk Bunk,
Junk Bug.
as a Shock fan, I would
Yes, Junk Bunk.
know all about him. Like, I think he's gonna develop whoever he gets very well. Houston's in good coaching hands, especially with Harsha, who can also speak. You know, if they decide to go full Korean, Harsha can speak Korean. So, yeah, I still don't get the Jack say the Boink Jack. I don't get it.
I mean,
Do you guys get it? I don't get it.
rumor around
Why
Reddit
was Boink
is-
signed?
Rumor around Reddit is that Boink is a god now, and he really leveled up his game, and Boink is going to be an MVP candidate next year. with how
I
well
thought
he's
they
playing
just
in
reposted
scrims.
something from 2019 until I actually looked at the image, the graphic that they put. It was actually re-signed Boink for 2020.
That's a fake account. They actually haven't announced anything about re-signing Boink.
Yeah, they're just replaying a post from
Oh, I got
2019. Don't buy into it, guys. I think you
God
guys
damn
are
it! I
crank.
got debated. I got debated.
We just got a
Fuck.
debate live,
Oh
and I've
my
been called
God,
out all throughout the week for falling
debated.
for it. This is another one.
Speaking of
Oh
which-
my god, we found this out. I'm sorry, but Twitch, if you saw this announcement, please read it again. 2020 is this year. 2021 is the one that we're talking about, which is in 3 months' time.
Debated.
And the league doesn't start till April. So all these drops are bound to happen. There's going to be something like this that's going to trip us up anyway. So if anyone was convinced we're seeing Boink next year, no guarantees. We might actually see him, but I don't think so.
God,
Back to Junk Buck though.
he's bad.
They
I don't wanna
had
see
to have
him.
bought out
I don't want to see
San
him.
Francisco Shock's one of many coaches, and just think he is a
I don't-
high
What do you
target.
guys think? I don't know. I don't know. I think Shock. Like, people are gonna say Shock probably. I think Shock aren't gonna do as well. Maybe. I mean, if they keep their core players, I don't know what they.
No, you think they really crusty will disappear?
No, I wouldn't think so. At least. I think. I
What
don't
about
know.
you guys? You think
Shock will be fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Krusty is just gonna re-sign some more coaches that can run under his mighty iron fist?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Krusty the G, it's hard to doubt him.
Yeah.
He just
Krusty
needed more
and,
manpower. That's all he's signing.
Krusty and Chris
Manpower
have a
coaches.
plan. Krusty and Chris always have a plan. Now, on the topic of
Steel
outlaws,
player?
what do you guys think? Actually, no, skip outlaws. Who cares? No one talks about outlaws.
What do you think?
London.
Oh, London.
What,
Spitfire.
what do we feel about London? How are we feeling about them? Yeah, I mean, do we all have an idea of what they're gonna do? I think I know what they're trying to
I
do.
propose that we need to start talking about the general manager that was announced about 2 days ago.
Mhm.
They did an interview with her, and I can tell that Nuki is a fantastic.
Nuki is a very
Can-
good GM.
Mhm.
Very good.
And they confirmed
Mom of
that
Western Overwatch. That's the name that Nuki goes by from Germany. And I think
Mhm.
she'll make a
in that
fantastic
video.
European, give them
I like
more
how you put the
identity that they
emphasis
deserve.
I like how you put the emphasis in European. I don't. What is London? If London's gonna be basically bringing up British Hurricane, I don't think they should. Also, I don't think they should.
They
bring Calico.
should.
I don't
I
think
would-
Calico's that
I would
good.
be
They should do it.
pleased to inform you if we see this London Spitfire team actually go full European roster, which is, again, very skeptical. They could do mixed, which would be more safer.
It would
if
be
any
the
Koreans that would want to be with
So-
London.
Does London play it safe, or do they No place safe.
They play it for the franchise, the branding, the fact that they're from London. They could go with Korean players just to bulk up on what is going to be a very challenging year for them, a second year in a row. Put in players that are ready to join. Spark, I don't think he's going to be of age.
How old
Because
is
he's a
Spark?
fantastic DPS.
Sparker's 17. He's not going to be old enough.
Like
Yeah, it'll be
16,
like
19,
during the season, and it won't be very early into the season to get
Will
much
it be
playtime out of him.
He was born on June 10th, so January.
Correct. So June.
Okay,
This will be
so
June, July,
would-
August, September. 4 months of like mid-season and playoffs.
Once
And if you look
Sparkle
at
came
the
back in the
credentials of
mid-season,
just the Hurricane,
you know,
they haven't dropped a single tournament in EU contenders since March.
and I would need to
That's
pay
tricky
attention to Brit.
thinking, though. It's not the same in Overwatch League. You saw Envy. They like rolled contenders, and then they signed the players like XQC Effect, and then they did not do too hot.
Oh yeah, they have the right mindset. They had, and I say
Yeah,
in the
it's
past had some
the
good
contenders is like
personnel.
I like to think of contenders as like any college sport, like football or basketball. I don't care how well you dominated college. I want to see you dominate in the big leagues where it matters, essentially. Like I want to see how well you can handle against the best of the best. Like,
The problem I have with that
which is why a
though,
lot
like,
of players look bad.
the problem I have with
It's
that
like they
is
don't
though,
look
like
they look
even
good
like
in
I
college.
feel like a bottom NBA team, like bottom of the standings NBA team, would still beat a college team most of the time, with like a couple of exceptions. But like when so many of the bottom L teams can't compete with like most like mid-tier NA contenders, like Boston losing to like contenders trial teams and collegiate Overwatch teams, like Maryville and stuff, like I don't know, that's why I put so much value in contenders' talent, is because it's been proven time and time and again that some contenders' talent is outperforming Al talent.
Yeah, it's a. I think there's a. I mean, when you think about it, any like a lot of the top contenders' talents could easily be owl teams, if you ask me. I mean, would you guys put like a team like Runaway or OT Blast as like an Overwatch League team level?
Uh,
I think they could.
yeah, absolutely. And it's actually funny you mentioned that, because there was a report a couple days back that because NYXL and London Spitfire are moving back to NA for their home markets, they actually want to have Korean contenders teams compete in the APAC tournaments for next season.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Ooh,
That would be spicy as
I
all hell.
didn't hear about that. That actually sounds really pod.
It'd be one team.
Again, they're throwing it up as a suggestion, so
Yeah.
it's still too early to know what that really means, because the implications, if it was set in stone right now, they bring in teams in Korea contenders to Overwatch League in Asia to minimize that gap. You can see some lower bracket teams, or we start seeing actual teams looking a little less like, what the statement was.
Are we
The
talking
best teams from around the world being taken out,
expansion?
like contenders
Question
teams.
mark? New teams?
Oh, possibly, but I think the
team?
buyouts isn't really what anyone's going to be interested in spending
Tokyo
in
team?
2021
Beijing
during
team?
COVID.
I don't
Anyone?
think that's happening during a pandemic.
Yeah, I don't mind more
anyway.
Chinese teams, but I think Busan's been looking for some genuine representation about now, not just on the map.
OT
not
Blast can
talking
just
about the map.
basically be Busan. That's what they can be. But all right.
Or Busan way.
What else? Who's another free? I'm gonna scroll through the list here. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm just looking at what I have in front of me, which is
Ooh,
just a whole
this
bunch
is
of
kind
teams.
of a low key thing, which I don't think a lot of people would think about. Is McGravy? McGravy, I
yes.
didn't expect
Where
him
do
to
you think he might be
McGravy.
going?
I don't know where he could go. That's the thing.
I don't think there's many places McGravy could go. He's a great personality and a marketable player, but I think there are better off tanks. Off tank is already a position that is so stacked, and there are better off tanks coming into the league from contenders, in my opinion.
McGravy would just kind of exist, in my opinion.
I don't think
Unless
Giga or Apply are going to quit yet either. They're
Apply's
probably
a
the ones
meme.
less notable, because
Apply's
Giga
a
really
meme.
was on the bench over Dreamer.
Gig, I don't know. Gig's a project. You got to put work into Gig to make him good. Gig has confidence, but he doesn't have a brain.
Gig to
That's the
shock,
thing.
make him the new Rhine specialist when Super retires.
essentially. I mean, I don't think Apply's a meme. I don't think Apply's that good anyway. Like, even when he actually plays DPS,
Only
it's not
reason
all that
people
good.
know about Apply is because he memes about simping on Twitter and whatever.
That's true. Also, fun fact, I think KSP is a free agent. I don't think he's announced it
Yeah,
yet,
that was
though.
mentioned in our chat that it's possible that KSP is looking to enter free agency, which I find
Yeah, it's
seriously
not to paper
surprising
yet.
because
Hmm
I would have thought Valiant would have been fighting hard to keep him around.
Don't have. I've heard from certain Valiant fans that they don't have a lot of money, which I don't even know how that's possible. When they spent barely,
Lionsgate,
like they spent a
Microsoft,
penny.
Razer,
They gave
The
Audemars.
Immortals org is focusing on COD League and Valorant, I believe. Even Packy
Yeah.
10 is coaching the Immortals Valorant team at the same time he's coaching Valiant.
Basically, Valiant they used like half a bag of saltine crackers and a penny to make the roster.
Honestly,
I
wouldn't
I
that
think
really good
honestly, if KSP goes free agency, London's gonna be that team to swoop him. London's gonna be the team to swoop him.
The EU representation, the UK representation.
Oh yeah,
not to
definitely.
mention.
I think also just on the topic of just English players, fuck it, get fusions, take him out, free him, please God, save him.
Free
Take
fusions,
Boombox,
free.
take Freeze, like,
Yes, Axiom is inactive. Is he gonna come back? I think he was meant to come back a while ago. Chances are
Poor
that
Axiom.
this team is having to do the implosion, but they're a very small implosion in comparison because we kind of saw it
I
coming.
like
Monk, Jerry, Myeonbong fusions, Hex, Halo might
like
get
a
new
rock.
confirmed.
like a rock that gets thrown into a lake. It's just bloomp. Like, oh, there goes the rock. Who cares?
Didn't they
It's
just
a rock.
Didn't they just pick up a new head coach?
They did.
Lori?
They did pick up a
Correct.
new.
I love talking about the staff changes, which will be quite impactful. So if Junkbuck for Outlaws is going to be amazing, imagine Laurie, head coach of Boston Uprising now.
Yeah.
He's got the
Probably-
WGS Phoenix players and contenders in his
Yeah.
belt.
I think. Like, let's be honest. If any teams deserve wins, it's Outlaws, Boston.
I mean,
Who
they don't
else?
deserve wins.
Hunters.
Them.
Hunters. Yeah, they deserve like to give their fans like something to cheer about and roster that they can be proud of. I mean, probably the Hunters are proud of their roster. I just think Boston and Houston need to make those fans not the press,
Yeah.
and they'll be like, "Oh well, we're a
The
garbage
Chinese teams will
team."
actually be interesting to watch because there's Team CC has been really good recently in Chinese contenders, and I can imagine there's going to be a lot of good Chinese talent coming into the league. Specifically looking at Chengdu and maybe Guangzhou. Spark might be looking to add Chinese players too, in fact.
In my opinion,
What we have at the meantime, Xiaogui, who was a very well-respected, also very well-known caster in the Chinese scene. Previously, he's been a pro player in the Chinese scene, as well as coaching. He's now finally doing that again, reprising for the last time, possibly, a coach for Hangzhou Spark. There's a very nice little short doco on his time as a caster. I definitely recommend you check it out from the Hangzhou Spark's YouTube page. Very good to just see what he has in store.
I think there's a lot of players that I think you guys know the legend IM37.
I'm 37. What team would he go to?
Yeah, the man who speed runs.
IM37 is actually really
Overwatch
good
League.
when he gets to play DPS.
Like,
Like,
isn't he
I'm
playing for,
37 is
Uprising
crack.
Academy right now or something?
He is playing on loan to WGS Phoenix, so
He's
he's just played in
WGS.
the playoffs, and I think they've put up a formidable fight in there.
Is he starting on WGS? That's insane. I had no idea.
He has started, yes, but mostly
Wow.
it's just Ace and Valentine. And if you're gonna get a DPS like Ace and Valentine into the Overwatch League next year, I think Boston Uprising is gonna seriously be quite a powerful pack of players that are gonna be signed.
He's such a
onto
good
Boston Uprising
player.
in 2021.
IM37 is such a
Can't wait to
great
see
ass
Higgy in the
player.
league.
If I don't see Aztec in the league, I'm gonna sue somebody. If Aztec is not in the league. Aztec is good.
I need to know why, because I must have missed out something on Aztec's hype, because I think he's been touted as a future potential star or an up and coming
He's
player
not been. I
this
don't.
year.
As
Well, what is it that makes him so good?
I can't say that I've watched a whole lot of contenders. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I
haven't?
know like.
Yeah, he hasn't. But I still want to know what is it that makes him stand out to
Aztec
you.
is just flashy. That's the only reason why. Aztec has flashy.
Flashy. He's a
No, he's
smart player.
he's good and he's smart, but people hype him up and talk about him because he's made a lot of flashy plays in contenders. Like there are there are
Mhm.
other flex supports that play smart and make good decisions, like MCD from Element Mystic. But Aztec gets hyped up because Aztec is flashier than all other main supports in Korean contenders right now.
Yeah,
I
and there's definitely some skill involved to be a flashy player. You're not simply just the
Absolutely.
one to get the final blows just because the rest of the team
I'm
doesn't
not being
kill. It's
dismissive
like, I'll
by
hold it
s-
off for him.
I'm not being dismissive by saying he's flashy. It definitely takes a lot of skill to be a flashy player, like a lot of mechanical
Yeah.
skill. But when I
I
say a
got
player's
time.
flashy, like that's why he's getting so much attention and hype is because like he he gets kills and like final blows and headshots or whatever.
Well, he's also like
He's a good Zen player. He likes to
he he,
bust out
he has
Zen.
good positioning from what I've seen. I've been starting to watch, and he's not in weird spots. Like
No,
he's not like Rocket. Like he's
not
just
Raucous.
a
That's
brain
such a
dead, flashy bed
high
player.
bar to pass.
I just think Aztec should be in the league. Aztec's good.
Oh, believe me, if that's where you're coming from, then I just see no problem in
I
hoping
respect.
to
I
see him.
like players that are, you know, I hate flashy players that don't have a brain. Like, and there's overly
Hureg
aggressive
was one of
flashy
those.
players.
And if you're
Hureg,
Hureg and you get a replay,
Hureg's the best bench player in the league.
he's now a
Like,
coach,
what do
dude.
you- He's the best bench player in the league.
Yeah, he's still looking for a team as well, like most of the Outlaws. Right now, it's still to be confirmed how many people are actually going to be part of this implosion. Dante
All right,
doesn't seem
all
likely.
right, all right. I have a fun thing. Since we're on contenders, I'm gonna name some very popular contenders players. I want to hear your guys' opinions on where they should go. Starting with arguably, maybe the best tank, like best main tank. Where Mag, Amelia, where do you think Mag should sign?
Where do I
What
think
team should
Mag should
sign Mag?
sign? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I personally think every team should be trying to sign Mag, unless you're Washington, who pretty much not Washington, unless
Yeah,
you're
don't tell me that Washington wouldn't consider it.
no, unless you're Paris, who pretty much already has Muse on lock. But like, I could see Dallas throwing money at Mag. I could see Washington throwing money at Mag. Um, I think Florida has a good tank
All right. Well, like,
situation
what
currently.
makes sense for Mag?
I think
Like,
what makes sense for Mag, I don't see him really going to an APAC team. Their tank lines are kind of locked up.
Mayhem?
I think Mag either go. I think Mag goes to. I want to say
I
Mag
think
goes to Dallas.
Texas.
Actually,
You think?
yeah.
I mean, I think when you like now that I bring up names, it's just gonna be like, all right, what team can throw him a lot of money? Dallas is. I mean, it's envy. They have money. They have plenty of it. I don't see them why they shouldn't be able to get certain players. They should have got unique, but that's a whole nother story. I just I think I think oh my god I can't speak. Washington I think is the perfect place for Mag, like a roster standpoint. He would fit in so seamlessly with that team. He would be the young gun in a group of vets, like guys that have been around the game for a long time. I think he would fit in easily,
He's been
and he
around for
wouldn't
a
look.
while too, though. He's been playing contenders for. He's like Alarm. He's been playing for a long time. It's just
I think like in
now
terms
he's
of
old enough.
out like pro pro vet, like the guys that have been around the block a few times.
Yeah,
I
I
think they
guess.
would mentor him well. I also do like Washington's coaching. I've given Washington a lot of shit for their coaching, but I think they've gotten better.
hmm
Obi, do you think Mag would go to any specific team, or do you think it's probably just
You're
be who
cutting
can
out a
offer him?
little.
Hmm. It's again so early to say because I think we're seeing so many of these big bombs coming up right now. It's like you immediately think it's going to be Houston, it's going to be Dallas. It could even be someone like Mayhem who haven't made any changes just yet. Maybe Seoul. might be able to take a land grab and trying to work out something with Slime as well. Their team might not look like they need changing, but
Ooh.
they also do want to try and figure out how they can tighten it up a little bit more next year if they're not dropping any players
I
anytime
think
soon.
teams like that, or like teams that are just kind of like one or two pieces away from being true contenders. Now,
Yeah, let's keep in mind.
let's all be perfectly honest here. Seoul does not make it as far as they did in the grand finals if the meta does not switch. The team looked so bad, so long, then the meta just switches. I'm not going to discredit Seoul. I'm not going to discredit them like how the Justice got shat on for making it as far as they did. I just think Seoul got very lucky. So same with Washington. Both teams got super lucky that the meta's changed it so rapidly from
Well,
what
the
they
contracts
did.
that would expire on Soul's end would be Marvel, Michelle, Fitz, and Illicit. That started full of like mid of the second year. Creative
I,
is definitely going to
are
stick
they?
around for a long time.
I
But
think
I
they
think
need to keep
2U, will they
Fitz.
still keep him?
Oh, I would. I think
Would
2U
you?
should. Yeah, hell yeah. 2U is good.
Best
Like
Zarya.
2U looks
Are
really
you sure
good.
about that?
Yeah.
We'd have to see a little bit more of it on the Overwatch League level. I'm just coming back to what you've told me just now on stream, which is
I think 2U is good. I think he should stay. Like he has oozing amounts of potential. Oozing
I think that's
amounts.
just because it's Sol though, because they're going to be able to build him up, and you've got Slime and just
They're
a whole
not.
bunch of bench
They're not.
players like
I
Michelle.
Slime's never gonna be PT again if Toby exists. Like, that's the thing. Slime needs to go to a new team. Like, isn't
Mayhem.
Slime was always like that one Vancouver player that I always felt like never got recognition, in my opinion.
Definitely, I
He was
absolutely agree
the
with you with that one.
he was the he was someone that you don't hear a lot about, but he does all the little things no one talks about. It's always the bumpers or the hacksaws that get credit. Slime's there. Slime's doing things. You just don't
I
see
think this
it.
is a recurring theme though. Whenever we try to rate our flex supports or
Team supports
the
are
main supports
hard.
are so much harder to be able to evaluate.
Yeah, because main support's such an impactful role. Like you don't need stats. Don't tell full stories on how good a main support is.
You're not going to go out
But
of your way
anyway,
to go on.
oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt?
Nah, it's right.
A team that I have a lot of stonks in are the Gladiators. I got many stonks in them. I think that team is gonna do. I think DP has a plan. You guys think DP has a plan?
I think he has a plan, but I think he has a plan to integrate more Western players. I mean, Gladiators is a team I've kind of been wanting to touch on all night because, I mean, we've talked about implosions with Dallas and Houston and London, but like, what team has imploded more than Gladiators at this point? They get rid of their support line that has been there from day one.
The beginning.
They get rid of OG. They get rid of Cloudy, who man, no more Finns. The Al Finn community is dying. And then they even drop OG. Like OG was a hot free agent season free. Like Toronto wanted him, Paris wanted him. Gladiators paid an arm and a leg and traded away potentially one of the best DPS players in the league for OG. And then he also gets dropped. I mean,
So
what's
they
left of it?
basically traded him for
Yeah.
nothing.
They traded Decay for nothing. Dallas traded OG for nothing. Gladiators
Yeah.
traded Decay for nothing, essentially. I want to point out that Gladiators has had a different starting main tank every season. Like the team can just not settle on a player whatsoever. And then all that's left is
Maybe this.
Space and Mir and Kevster and Birdring.
Yeah, that's true. They do need backups and they need starters. What what would be all right? Name a. Is there any support duo from contenders that you guys think would fit well with what the Glads are trying to do?
Yeah.
Like mixed West. I think they're trying to be a mixed team.
They
Maybe
okay.
they're trying to be. They're including players like Mir and Birdring, but I think they're trying to keep it mostly
Well,
Western.
Mir's a Western player. He was yes, he was born in Vietnam, but he's lived in the U.S. for most of his life. Yeah,
He's
but
he's a mixed player.
I guess. Uh,
It could,
something
and I'm
important.
saying this quite honestly though, real quick. There's this DPS guy that they put on 14-day contract. Maybe they might want to sign him in permanently.
Really?
His name is Sideshow.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've never heard of him.
We,
Have you guys
we
heard
just
of
only
him?
had him on
He's
the
a
bench,
hard
man.
carry, man. Hard carry.
hard carry.
Yeah, he just had some visa issues worse than others because his one was for casting. So what if he went full deep dive?
Yeah, I heard he beat
What
Yaki
people
in
play it to.
Farah 1v1.
So
Izuyaki?
No, just Yaki.
Gaki.
Ah, yes, I heard Yaki. That just sounded like Iza. I think it's not going to be hard to him to just give up the ghost if the casting game sinks for him next year.
How do I think that? It's just hard to say what team, like what players fit on what teams well that
I
aren't
think
blown up.
Gladiators is easier to define what players fit for them because Deepay is the GM and the head coach, and he's been very vocal about the team he wants to build. Deepay has stated time and time again that he wants to build the team that Western players want to go to. And so part of the reason why OG and Birdring were integrated, even though they're not Western, is because they are English-speaking players who fit well in a Western culture, and they want to improve their English and play with a Western roster, which I think was part of the conflict with Decay. Was I think we've seen a lot that like Decay doesn't want to really be part of a mixed roster. So like
Neptuno Gladiators.
No,
I don't like Neptuno that much.
no, I don't want him as a starter.
You guys are just going out of emotion though. It was just
Not
trying to put that out
emotion.
there would be a bit of a
Really?
stretch.
Neptuno's
I know.
that good.
Here's the reason Char started over him. Because Char was better.
Well, there was
I
also
think that
Visa.
they could really use the aggressive Lucio that we're sorely missing from a Big Goose. I mean, once he kind of faded it out of relevance throughout
Neptuno is a
season
vet.
3.
Sure.
Yeah,
Take a player
tie
like
those teams down with Bird Ring Space.
maybe Jexa could fit. Or
I'd like to see
Sanguinar.
Jexe. I don't think Sanguinar. I would like to see Jexe or I think Zolik from Drifters personally in the main
Oh yeah,
support role.
Zolik, I've heard that name come up
Yeah,
several times
definitely.
I feel
throughout
like
NA
they should make
contenders.
a play for Moth in main support if they can, but I wouldn't put all your stocks in getting Moth because there's like high likelihood he goes back to
That's all your
Shredlock.
money. That's
Yeah,
all your money as
it is
well
all
when you
your
think
money.
about
Yeah, I
it.
Well,
think Bird Ring was quite the surprise because his English is goddamn fluent as all heck given the 2 years in Overwatch League when he started picking up English as part of London Spitfire.
Mhm.
So if I could see a real surprise play, it might be someone from Chinese contenders. I'm sure they've been scouring really hard. Just need to
Pelican.
find that one player that speaks English. Speaks English is the biggest
they have
criteria though.
two
It will be
flex
a hard
Julias
no if
with
they're not willing to learn.
Pelican.
If they're not fluent in that Chinese, sorry, not Chinese, the Overwatch English that
Mhm.
all these players sort of get along by, as proven by
Is
most
Overwatch
teams.
English
mixed
just
rosters.
yelling one character name?
Monkey, monkey,
Yeah,
monkey.
ball,
Yeah.
Lucio, Lucio, Lucio.
I think
That's
they
it,
should try to
basically.
pick up Crimzo personally. He's the best Western flex right now.
Crimzo to Glads.
I would love to see Crimzo. on
Crimzo and
Glads.
Jexa to Glads.
Crimzo and Jexe could.
That would be the most aggressive, one of the most aggressive support duos in the league.
But Deepay really likes playing aggressive. That's the thing. That
Yeah,
might
he
actually
Yeah,
just
he
be the
changed
move.
Players that enable it, and the first one that comes to mind is Neptuno. Honestly, if you
I
find
don't
anyone
think
else that's
Neptuno.
more
I'm
available and
starting
better in experience,
Jexa over Neptuno.
I'm starting Jexa over Neptuno too.
sure. I
I
can
mean,
roll with that. If you're
Neptuno
gonna
could be a
deal
good
with
leader.
Neptuno
You know, he
signing.
could be the hard ass of the team. You know, tell them that they're playing bad and need to play better.
I think Big Goose was sort of that idol that they looked up to as the one who
Big Goose
was
was the
grounded.
Big Goose is a nice teddy bear. That's what Big Goose was.
Mhm.
Also,
probably
we
in-game,
also
he'd
we
be
miss
good.
you, Bishu. We miss you. I'm gonna miss Bishu. Bishu was such a I think he's a lot of people probably looked up to Bishu like as a person because Bishu was so incredibly nice and he was never all that good, but you know he's someone you could rely on to keep the team in check, be a vet, and just be a all around good dude. I think a lot of players like that get underappreciated because they're not good. Like not a lot of players like that are good. Take someone like Stratus for example. The dude wasn't all that good as a player, but him being just a all around great person that can really push a team to, let's say they're having a player's having a bad day. Someone like Bishu comes over and be like, it's okay. So, like positive players are important. That's basically what I'm saying. Positive players are important.
Absolutely, it's important to have like just the team culture in general, and like players come in with like a positive mental attitude and like not get tilted. I mean, that was important with a player like OG who got tilted a lot. He's a player that like famous for how hard he tilts.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that kind of needed to change the way they were as people, to be an owl. This is kind of what it is. You got to be a professional, or you just got to hide it really well.
hmm
But anyways, I've talked a lot. So what else do you guys want to talk about tonight?
Uh,
I
Anything
can
else?
visit Chengdu.
What about them? You want to talk
Okay,
about
so
what Chengdu?
as far as how they closed out their season, not that great. And how they decided to go about it at the moment is they've officially released the two Taiwanese players, 18 and Bacon Jack. Was it really a surprise? Not at all. Bacon Jack's contract would have expired, and his time on Chengdu was very niche. They made him a specialist as their Widowmaker, and 18 had his highlights, but I don't think he can make much out of it. More than 30 seconds worth of him really popping off throughout the entire year where he got the chance to play over Among. So there's probably going to be more indications now that if they still want to re-sign Among, you might as well re-sign most of the players that sort of kept them running. But there's only a few of them that really stand out that would be worth re-signing. Late Young,
Yeah,
Molly.
I would keep their support duo. Molly and Yveltal are very underrated, in my opinion, at least.
hmm
I mean, I think they should keep Leaf. I think Leaf can still be a great player. He just kind of had a slow start, but he picked it up towards the end.
I'm not keen on seeing a leave be wasted after such a disappointing. So high expectations player from China, because I think China is getting so little representation, and they'll still be slept on as a team that or a country with some valuable players because of the language barrier, on top of just how much value or stock you can put into any of these teams in Chinese contenders. Because right now the one stomping is Shanghai's academy team, Team CC, and yeah, Diva is doing a fantastic job there.
He
But
should
they
be
are also a
signed.
mixed roster with two Korean players over there. I can tell you now, if there's any hot prospects that are willing to learn English or can stick with, like I said, Overwatch English, it's Team CC, T1W, and there was one other that came to
So you're
mind.
basically saying like a team of players that probably are willing to learn at least Overwatch English.
Well, yeah, if they want to be able to compete, they do understand, just like any other players that are mainly in Asia. It's going to be the adaptation of just being in another culture. But Guangzhou has been trying to be more accepting of these other players and try to introduce Chinese players, but at the cost of a lot of visa issues this year. So that's probably kicked them in the gut. So that if they're going to nip a bud in that, they're going to try and sign players that will have easier ways to get into China. If they're going to be playing from Korea again next year,
Yeah,
they'll also have to factor that in too.
I
If they
just
do want to get more
I think
Western
if I'm a
players.
Western player, I don't take the risk on joining an APAC team if I know my visa thing is going to be an issue. But anyway, as one last thing I want to talk about, and I think it should be talked about, is how the league handled the last playoff thing. I don't. You should not reward teams that played super bad all season and give them a chance to prove themselves again. I don't think that should have been allowed. It's a reason why the justice went on. You're rewarding a team that looked like absolute horse crap the whole season. They're like all of a sudden meta switch, bam, that team ends in third
I have
place.
a
But it's the comeback arc, right?
Yeah.
That's
There's
all
a
the
comeback
drama
arc,
to
and
it.
the
Is, oh my
entire
god, this
point.
team sucked and now they're doing well.
Screw the drama. I'd rather like
Oh,
if they were
no.
like
Okay,
uh,
Toucan,
this is
look
just-
at it this way.
Toucan
You're
power.
right. I forgot you were a Shock fan. My bad.
Yeah, Justice
Yeah,
didn't go to
we can
Korea.
disregard this guy.
Justice didn't win
at least I don't listen.
grand finals, right? And if these teams that they beat wanted wins over Justice, you know what they should have done? They should have earned it, played better.
Yeah,
They should
maybe
have
the
had a better
meta
read
shouldn't
on the
have
meta.
switched like it was, because that meta just like they sucked at keeping the meta like.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say they sucked at keeping the meta fresh. I just think they shouldn't have changed the meta the way like that patch shouldn't have gone live.
But like,
Is what I'm saying.
well, then
But they
why
never
did
changed it
no
during
other
grand
teams
finals, too.
play Hog Zarya if it was so good? Like, I think
It's because teams weren't gonna be expecting the Hog Zarya.
it's a failure of the well, they should have tried more options. Like, it's a failure of the teams who didn't play the comp, not
I don't want to see. I hate seeing teams get rewarded for being garbage all
what did they get
season.
rewarded.
That's not what they were
with?
rewarded
A
for,
couple
though.
of-
They were rewarded on recency bias.
They
and
showed 'em
towards
what it
actually
It's
mattered.
like, oh yeah, Boston, you guys didn't do anything else. Well, here you go, take a win, be happy.
It does,
So you're saying flexibility isn't valuable, Toucan? Because
I'm
that's
just-
what it tested. It tested how flexible these
Yeah.
teams could be.
No,
in
it's
changing
like
that.
I'm maybe it's
It
'cause
showed
I'm
some
used to
backbone
I'm
and
used to
something.
other sports where like a bottom 5 team doesn't get rewarded with a playoff spot. Like
No, but
I-
that's why they were seeded lower, so that they had to play more matches. The same applied for the Melee, Summer Showdown, Community
and on
Countdown Cup.
top of that, like, I mean, they weren't handed wins though. They earned the wins. They played better than the other teams, and they had a better read on the meta, and they understood like what was actually good better. Like, you can't like teams don't deserve to win, right? Like they're like just because you have a good record all season doesn't mean you deserve to win when you know it's playoffs time. You still have to win the games in playoffs. If you can't win those games and you can't take out a team like Justice, you should have had a better read on the meta. You should have like Hog Sigma comps were played the entire time with no changes in grand finals because teams had an extra like 4 weeks to develop the meta and scrims.
but when that hog patch went live, no team had a lot of time to prepare for it. It's like it went live probably a week,
But
maybe
Justice
2
figured
weeks
it
and a
out.
week before the
Teams were
playoffs.
scrimming Justice. Why didn't anyone else try out the comp? You had like Gladiators and Rain running Rhine comps for crying out loud. Reinhardt. They weren't even playing the Winston Diva comp. Dallas was trying to force Reinhardt of all heroes. Like the teams don't deserve to win if they can't beat Washington.
I
You
just
can't
don't think
win
bad
important
teams should be
games.
rewarded with playoff
But
spots.
If they're a bad team, they would have lost.
They would
That's
have
That's
lost
right.
to
Just don't call them a
Houston.
bad
Very
team if
much.
they won.
All you had to do was just know that if you thought they were a bad team all season and you lose to them, you've set yourself up for the wrong expectations going into obviously the brackets, which everyone's busted 95% of.
Because, but like, does that same thing apply if it's like a real like it's like the one like take an NBA game like it's in the playoffs? Is it fair game if the 8 seed beats the 1 seed?
Yeah, if they beat them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they beat them.
But I don't
If-
want
if
to see
the-
the
if
I
the
don't want to
top-
see
if
the
the
11th
first seed-
seed like
Say
in
if the
playoffs.
first seed knew that they're playing against the 20th seeded team, so they know with confidence that they can play their B team, still good enough to be able to tackle whatever the
Yeah.
20th seed team
I
is,
just
right?
I just feel like it's like if your team plays bad all season
I mean,
and then
You're
it's like,
trying to
look at it
forgive
this way.
the
Look
San
at it this
Francisco
way.
Shock
no,
for
listen,
losing last year.
I just
Listen,
thought
this
about
year.
it. I just thought about it. It's like a team can play bad. It's like a team can make themselves play bad all season. And it's like,
You have
oh,
to,
guys, don't worry. We gotta play. We're gonna be in the playoffs anyway. It doesn't matter how bad we play in the regular
okay, but you
season.
have to
We can
remember-
lose. We could lose every
Oh my
game.
God, can you stop
And we'll-
talking over people?
Yeah, no. Yeah, you gotta stop
Wow.
because you can now finally understand where my frustration is with Seoul. Because if I wanted to root for Seoul, I would if their performance was consistent across the year and through to the finals. What they showed is that, like with London Spitfire in season 1, they could still get away with that as long as they were in the right seeding to still just etch it in, and then they can go with all the power and the skill that they have inherently mechanically, when it's at their final straw, they'll pull it off. And that is frustrating as a fan for me, to be able to see a regular season performance that never indicates what they're truly capable of. When I see Guangzhou, I can be surprised during the regular season, and then when I see it in the off season, I'm just thinking, well, this is the challenge that I want to look forward to. Them being the highest seeded team and not falling to the lowest seeded teams, which is frankly what happened throughout that playoffs for them. Not adapting to the meta, all the other teams and Seoul surprisingly being able to pull it off
Kind
and
of
make it into
reminds
the
me
grand
of
finals.
Kind of reminds me of a thing in America that we have March Madness. March Madness is fucking insane.
Why is it insane?
If anyone else in chats from America and watches any form of college basketball, you know March Madness is basically every college team that at least you have like the 15th ranked college team versus like the best ranked college team, and it's basically whoever wins that game wins the series. Basically like how the Overwatch League was. So first college team can upset the best college team.
Mhm.
I mean, I could probably
Yeah, that's kind of
where
the
they got
idea,
their
right?
inspiration. I
Isn't
just
that kind of
like
the
you gotta
concept of having
understand
a
like
tournament?
people like me when the complaints come in, it's like that team did not deserve to make it as far as they did. They didn't. They really didn't.
Then why did they?
Yeah,
It's
why?
just meta going
And why
live
March specifically?
super late.
You
Don't
have to
ask me why. It's
remember the
March Madness
circumstances
probably
of
is
the
when
season,
I think it's
though.
when
We had a
basketball
pandemic.
ends.
Washington couldn't even field their full roster because Lucius couldn't get his visa. They couldn't sign new players because like they wanted to build a Korean roster, but you can't physically take Korean players and fly them over to America for the longest time. That's why Mayhem
Yeah,
didn't make any
still couldn't.
mid-season signings and only had Yaki and BQB for the entire season. Like that wasn't ideal for them. They wanted another DPS player and they wanted like another main support. Everyone was clamoring for them to sign Slime, but they couldn't because they couldn't fly him out of Korea. And so there was a lot of circumstances that made this season really awkward and weird, and like they lost two of their players to Valorant and retirement and stuff. I mean, the league had to lower the roster size for crying out loud for certain teams like Washington.
8.
It was actually 7 by the end of the season.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
they
it went
really
from
shrunk it down.
minimum
Well,
9
just as bad with
players.
7 players.
Yeah. Like the circumstances of the season were not normal. Like even if you have a full roster, like being inside the entire like season and just playing video games is very like mentally taxing and could lead to like worse performances in a player. So like I think that's why it's okay that they included every team because like the circumstances of the season were just so different from the previous ones. And again,
Teams-
like if teams want to beat Washington, they have to earn it. You can't just coast like just because you won in the regular season doesn't mean you deserve wins when the time shows up.
I just hope teams don't get the influence of, oh, hey, look at us. We had a shitty season, but, you know, we competed in the playoffs because the meta changed. I don't want GMs to think that that's okay. Like, you still need to make signings. I don't want to see fucking
You think there's a
Robert
single team in the Overwatch League that's like, oh, don't worry, it was just a loss.
It was just a loss.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
they
don't
really are
worry,
just
we
gonna
lost,
swap
bad.
scrub it off.
Like
Yeah.
no one's game planning to lose the entire season.
It's just, I don't
The
want
tricky thing is,
I just don't want to see them think it's okay that you could play
Who
bad.
would
all
think
season.
it's okay?
Probably
I'm
Boston.
kind of convinced that was Toucan's only finding out 2 years into the 3 years into the season's past that this is the thing. I definitely know this is potentially one way to look around it. If you're not getting the wins, you're just playing for the losses, and you're trying to climb your way back from there, just to reduce
I'm
the
not
amount of
saying
effort.
that they shouldn't, like, no team thinks like, oh yeah, we're gonna lose every game this season. Hell yeah, we're in. Like, no one thinks that. They want to all win. I just don't want them to think it's okay how they won. It's hard to put in words. I don't
Yeah,
want to
absolutely.
think Boston's GM, like whoever owns Boston, I think it's Robert Kraft. He's like, oh yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect roster. We don't need to make any changes. The meta loved us. No, you still need to make changes to your roster. Like, Washington still
Okay,
needs to make
if
changes
you
to
can
their
think
roster.
this, the GMs can think this too. Like
And
if you
Washington
outside of
is
the
making
league can be
changes.
like, yeah, of course they're not going to keep the same roster because they did poorly. The GMs are thinking the same thing. You're not like one step ahead of the Overwatch League, my guy.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
too
we're gonna have to
bad.
wrap this up, my friends. So I think Triton, you've had probably the least to say throughout this particular episode. I'm sure it's because there's a lot around most of these player signings and leavings that are still not quite under wraps yet. Do you have any last words?
Last words as far as the signings. This season was
Just
wild.
this week at the moment, it is wild. I can tell you, they bombed it really early. They're just out the gate, but we still got plenty of teams.
It was a
Ken,
good season.
would you like to add to that?
Add to what? I'm confused about what you're talking about.
With all the signings that have yet to be confirmed, and the teams like I'm thinking Atlanta, who's still got a full roster, they've just lost FRD and one other, Fire.
Pocket
They
the
need to
Monster.
make roster changes.
Yeah,
I
more
want to see
confirmed.
going into this next season. I guess the biggest thing is I want to see people brought up from contenders and a lot less people brought up from the ladder. I think that would be best for the league, and if they invest in contenders, I think that'll make this a more sustainable thing. Because Overwatch is shaky right now as far as Overwatch League. I don't think it'll go away this year or next year, but I think if they keep pulling support away from contenders and people keep leaving for Valorant, and especially with COVID, a lot of people retiring or dropping out or getting signed to free agencies, like it could be rough in these next couple of years.
I
What I have
think
to say.
I think probably like it's kind of like almost a make or break. If like they don't make like the league doesn't support tier 2 all that well, like yeah, people aren't going to be happy. And when you think about it, the season's over. Like season 3 was a good season. It was a really weird season. We had ups, we had downs, people leaving, teams doing well. It's not my favorite season. You're never going to be able to encapsulate what season 1 was, but season 3 was a good season. In terms
Agreed.
of change,
Oh,
players.
one last thing. Any team
Yeah,
that signs
try, last one.
Crimzo, you're immediately my second favorite team.
And
Crimzo
that's
is
the one.
cracked.
That's it. Thank you.
You're gonna buy.
Thank you,
You
Try.
still haven't bought his jersey. You still haven't gotten his jersey yet.
Only a matter
need
of
to
time
get
you
it
just make a custom-made jersey, and you're gonna predict
Yeah, I'm
exactly.
gonna make it at home, dude.
You're gonna buy
Easy.
it. DIY Overwatch League jersey.
I
Better
mean,
than safe.
where would you guys?
You can
What do you
get
guys?
that on
What
Etsy.
like quickly wrapping it up? Did you
Oh,
guys
please.
enjoy this
Last
season?
We got to wrap.
You guys enjoyed the season?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it. Was
I definitely enjoyed the season for its ups and downs. That's the end of it for this week's Ecopoint podcast. I want to thank you all for catching up. I know there's been some misses in the schedule, but we'll definitely make up for it with more Ecopoint 5, some player rankings, and special guests to come up. My name is Obi. This is Try, Toucan, Amelia. Catch us up on Twitch on Ecopoint Overwatch, one word. On Twitter, Ecopoint Podcast. And on
Yeah.
YouTube. Just have a look up around, and we also have a Discord. Feel free to come and catch us up on the Discord. If you do need to catch up and have a look for our Discord, we'll keep you posted, and we'll let you know
Don't
when
worry,
they
we're
come in.
friendly.
All right, catch y'all.
See ya.
See ya.
Lady shitters.